My dear friend, let me begin with a simple question. How many times have you stayed quiet even when you had something valuable to say, just because you weren't confident enough to say it in English? Think about those moments when your heart wanted to speak, but your tongue refused to move. Maybe you were in a classroom, maybe in an office, maybe in front of friends. The words were there in your mind, but they felt trapped, locked away, as if fear had built an invisible cage around your voice. And in that moment, you felt small. You felt powerless. You felt like everyone else was one step ahead of you. I know that feeling. That burning frustration of wanting to express yourself, but instead choosing silence. That pain of being judged, of hearing laughter, or even worse, imagining laughter before it even happens. The world doesn't always see it, but inside it hurts. Because deep down, you know you are capable of so much more. You have ideas, you have dreams, you have stories worth telling, but the lack of English confidence keeps them buried inside you. But let me tell you something that can change your entire perspective. Fluency is not a gift given to a few lucky people. It is not magic. It is not something you are born with. Fluency is a skill, and like any skill, it can be built, it can be trained, it can be mastered. And the best part, you don't need to wait for perfect grammar. You don't need to sound like a native speaker. You don't need to chase perfection. You just need to take small, smart steps every day. Imagine yourself 1 year from now. Imagine walking into a room and speaking in English without hesitation. Imagine answering questions with confidence, laughing in conversations, sharing your thoughts freely. Imagine the pride you will feel when you look back and realize you made it happen. That version of you is possible. It's not a dream, it's a reality waiting to be created. And today, I'm here to guide you towards that reality, not with difficult rules or boring lessons, but with 5 smart, simple, and powerful ways to improve your English speaking skill. These are not tricks, they are habits. Habits that, once you make them a part of your life, will transform the way you speak, the way you think, and the way you carry yourself. And let's be honest, this way of learning is not only powerful, it's enjoyable. Instead of sitting with boring grammar books, you're learning through songs you love, shows that entertain you, stories that inspire you. You're learning while laughing, while relaxing, while living. That's why it works so well, because it doesn't feel like a burden. And here's the best part. When you enjoy the process, you stick to it. You don't give up after a week, because it doesn't feel like studying. It feels like life. Now you might say, but what if I don't understand everything? Let me remind you of something important. You don't need to understand everything. Think about when a baby hears language for the first time. Do they understand every single word? No, but slowly, through repetition and exposure, their brain begins to recognize patterns, and eventually they start speaking. You are no different. At first, you will catch only a few words. Then you will start recognizing sentences. Then one day you'll realize you are not just hearing English, you are understanding it. And soon after, you'll find yourself speaking it with confidence. Surrounding yourself with English also means choosing English whenever you have the option. Change the settings on your phone to English. Use English while searching online. Read product labels, instructions, even small notes in English. Every time you choose English, you are training your brain. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but that discomfort is the sign of growth. That is your mind stretching, expanding, learning. Another powerful way to create an English environment is through music. Have you ever noticed how easily song lyrics stay in your memory? That's because music makes words stick. If you listen to English songs regularly, you'll find yourself unconsciously repeating lines, mimicking pronunciation, and learning phrases without even trying. And the same works with movies. When you watch your favorite characters speak, you start imitating their tone, their expressions, their style. You don't just learn words, you learn the emotion behind the words. That's what makes your speaking natural, not robotic. Think also about the power of stories. When you read short stories, articles, or even social media posts in English, you're not only learning vocabulary, you're training your imagination in English. You're teaching your brain to think in English, and the more you think in a language, the easier it becomes to speak it. You might even start dreaming in English one day, and when that happens, you'll know the language has truly become a part of you. The beautiful thing about surrounding yourself with English is that it doesn't require extra time. You don't have to stop living your life to practice. You only have to replace what you already do with an English version of it. Instead of watching a show in your native language, watch it in English. Instead of listening to music you already know, try English songs. Instead of reading news in your local language, read it in English. That way, you're not adding pressure, you're simply shifting habits. And slowly, without realizing it, English becomes your comfort zone. So remember, fluency is not about forcing yourself to study harder. It's about creating an environment where English surrounds you, supports you, and becomes a natural part of who you are. The more you hear it, see it, read it, and live with it, the more confident your speaking will become. Because when your brain is constantly filled with English, your mouth will eventually have no choice but to let English flow. The second smart way to improve your English speaking skill is something that may sound unusual at first, but it is one of the most effective habits you can ever build. Speak to yourself in English. Yes, you heard that right. Talk to yourself. Some people might laugh at this idea, but those who practice it know how powerful it really is. Because the truth is, the biggest barrier between you and fluent English is not grammar, not vocabulary, not even accent. It's hesitation. And the best way to remove hesitation is to practice speaking in a space where you feel zero fear of judgment. Who could give you that space better than yourself? Think about it. When you speak to yourself, you don't have to worry about being laughed at. You don't have to worry about making mistakes. You don't have to fear someone correcting you in the middle of your sentence. You are free to speak without limits, without pauses, without shame. That freedom is exactly what builds fluency, because fluency doesn't come from perfection. It comes from practice. And when you talk to yourself, you are giving your mouth and your brain the practice they desperately need. Now, how can you do it? It's simple. Start with your daily routine. When you wake up in the morning, instead of silently brushing your teeth or making breakfast, describe what you are doing in English. Say things like, I am brushing my teeth, or I am cooking breakfast. It may sound basic, but it's powerful. Why? Because you are training your brain to connect daily life with English words. Slowly, this becomes a habit, and English stops being something you study and starts becoming something you live. Another method is to share your thoughts aloud in English. For example, if you're thinking about your day, don't just think silently, say it out loud. Today, I have to finish my assignment. I feel a little tired, but I am excited about meeting my friend. The weather is so hot today. These are small sentences, but they create a huge impact. You are teaching yourself to express feelings, actions, and thoughts in English. That's exactly what real communication is about. One of the best techniques is mirror practice. Stand in front of a mirror and talk as if you are speaking to another person. It could be an introduction. Hello, my name is... Or it could be a pretend conversation, like ordering food at a restaurant or giving directions. When you look at yourself while speaking, you become more aware of your expressions, your confidence, and your body language. Over time, this exercise not only improves your English, but also makes you a more confident speaker in general. Now, some people hesitate to talk to themselves because they think it's silly. But let me remind you of something. Every great speaker, every performer, every confident communicator has practiced in private before shining in public. Think of athletes. They train behind closed doors before winning medals on the field. Think of singers. They rehearse alone before performing in front of thousands. Speaking English is no different. Talking to yourself is your private training ground. If you skip it, you'll always feel nervous in public. But if you embrace it, you'll enter conversations already warmed up, already confident, already ready. Another important benefit of talking to yourself is vocabulary growth. When you speak, you often realize there are words you don't know. For example, while describing your day, you might say, I am cutting vegetables. You may pause because you don't know how to say chopping. That gap becomes clear only when you practice speaking. And once you notice it, you can look it up, learn it, and use it again next time. Slowly, your vocabulary grows naturally, connected to your real-life experiences. Also, self-talk helps you practice pronunciation. Reading a word silently is one thing, but saying it out loud is completely different. When you speak to yourself, you start noticing how your tongue moves, how your mouth shapes words, and where you struggle. If something feels hard to pronounce, repeat it again and again until it feels smooth. This repetition builds muscle memory, and eventually, difficult words become effortless. And here's something beautiful. When you talk to yourself regularly, you slowly begin to think in English. At first, you may translate from your native language, but as you practice more, sentences start forming directly in English. This is the real breakthrough, because the moment you start thinking in English, hesitation disappears. You're no longer translating in your head, no longer stuck between two languages. You're free to speak naturally. Let me share a small example. Imagine you're walking home and you see the sunset. Normally, you'd think in your own language. The sunset looks beautiful, but because of self-talk practice, you start saying it in English instead. The sunset looks beautiful today. That small switch is life-changing, because if you can think in English, you can speak in English. So, never underestimate the power of talking to yourself. It's not about sounding silly, it's about building confidence. It's not about perfect sentences, it's about progress. It's about creating a safe space where you can make mistakes freely, correct yourself, and grow every single day. And the more you do it, the more natural English will feel, until one day you won't even realize you're speaking fluently. You just will. The third smart way to improve your English speaking skill is to start small conversations. And when I say small, I truly mean small. The mistake so many learners make is waiting for the big moment, the long conversation, the important presentation, the perfect opportunity to speak. They hold themselves back, telling themselves, I'll speak when I'm ready, I'll speak when my English is better, I'll speak when I have the right words. But that moment never comes, because fluency doesn't wait for perfection, it grows out of practice. And the easiest way to practice is to start small, with short, simple conversations that may last only seconds, but leave a lasting impact on your confidence. Think of it like exercise. If someone who has never gone to the gym suddenly tries to lift heavy weights, they will struggle and feel discouraged. But if they begin with light weights, little by little, their muscles grow stronger until they can handle more. Speaking English works the same way. If you try to begin with long, complicated conversations, you will feel overwhelmed. But if you start with small exchanges, just a greeting, a question, a short reply, you will slowly train your speaking muscles. And soon, the conversations that once felt impossible will feel completely natural. So, how do you start? Begin with greetings. A simple hello, how are you, or good morning in English may look small, but it's a powerful step. Why? Because it breaks the silence. It teaches your tongue to move, your brain to react, and your confidence to grow. That small greeting opens the door to bigger conversations. After greetings, move to small questions. What's your name? Where are you from? Do you like this place? These are not complicated, but they create the habit of speaking. Each time you use them, you reduce your fear a little more. Another great way to start small is in everyday situations. For example, if you're at a shop, instead of pointing to what you want, try saying, "Can I have this?" or "How much is this?" If you're at a restaurant, order in English, even if it's just one sentence. "I'd like some water, please." These conversations may last only a few seconds, but every second counts, because the goal is not perfection, the goal is practice, and practice builds fluency. The beauty of small conversations is that they don't require preparation. You don't need to know hundreds of words. You don't need to memorize long dialogues. You only need a few simple sentences. And the more you use those sentences, the more natural they become. At first, you may hesitate. You may worry about making mistakes. But remember, nobody expects perfection in a short conversation. People care more about your effort than your grammar. And even if you make mistakes, most people will understand you anyway. What matters is that you tried, and every attempt takes you one step closer to fluency. Let me share something important. Confidence grows from repetition, not from waiting. The first time you speak, you may feel nervous. The second time, a little less nervous. The 10th time, you'll notice that you're speaking without even thinking about it. This is how small conversations transform into natural fluency. They build momentum, they push you forward, they give you proof that you can speak. And here's something powerful. Small conversations also teach you the rhythm of real English. Textbooks can give you rules, but only real-life exchanges teach you tone, expressions, and flow. For example, when someone asks, "How are you?" you don't need to answer with a long sentence. A simple, "I'm fine, thank you," works. When someone says, "See you," you can reply, "See you soon." These are the patterns of daily English, and you learn them best through practice. The more you use them, the more natural they become, until one day you don't even think, you just respond. Now, some of you may feel shy. You may think, "But what if I get stuck in the middle? What if I don't know how to continue?" That's okay. That's why we start small. The goal of a short conversation is not to impress anyone. It's to practice without pressure. If you can say only 2 or 3 sentences, that's enough. Celebrate that small win, because today's 2 sentences will turn into tomorrow's 5, and tomorrow's 5 will turn into a full conversation. Growth is built step by step, not all at once. Another benefit of starting small is that it helps you face real people. Talking to yourself, like we discussed earlier, is powerful, but when you actually use English with someone else, you enter a new level of practice. You experience nervousness, you deal with real reactions, you test your ability in real time. That experience cannot be replaced by books or apps. It can only come from interaction, and the easiest way to build it is through small everyday conversations that you can handle. So, start today. Greet someone in English. Ask a simple question. Order something in English. Send a short text in English. Don't wait for the perfect conversation. Create small ones, because these small conversations are not small at all. They are bricks, and with each one, you are building the foundation of your fluency. And the more bricks you place, the stronger your confidence becomes, until one day you realize you are standing tall on a wall of fluency that you built piece by piece, word by word, conversation by conversation. The fourth smart way to improve your English speaking skill is to learn from mistakes and never fear them. This is where so many learners get stuck. They don't struggle because they lack ability. They struggle because they're afraid of getting something wrong. And this fear of mistakes is like a heavy chain. It holds them back from speaking, from practicing, from growing. But here's the truth you need to hear. Mistakes are not your enemy. They are your greatest teacher. Every mistake you make in English is proof that you are trying. Every mistake you make is a step forward, not backward. Think about how you learned to walk as a child. Did you stand up one day and run perfectly? Of course not. You stumbled, you fell, you hurt yourself, and you cried. But then you got back up, you fell again, and you tried again. And slowly, your steps became steadier. Today, you walk without thinking about it. Nobody remembers how many times you fell. What matters is that you didn't stop. Language is the same. Every speaker you admire today, those who sound fluent, those who seem effortless, they once made mistakes too. The only difference is they didn't let their mistakes silence them. They used them as lessons, as fuel, as stepping stones toward fluency. When you fear mistakes, you choose silence, and silence kills progress, because silence teaches you nothing. But when you dare to speak, even with broken sentences, you gain something every single time. If you say something wrong and someone corrects you, you just learned the right way. If nobody corrects you, but you realize it later, that mistake will stay in your mind, and you'll remember not to repeat it. Either way, you grow. That's the magic of mistakes. They turn into lessons you can't forget. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're at a cafe and you say, "I want coffee with milk," but you mispronounce milk as milik. The waiter may smile, maybe even repeat the word correctly. Milk? In that tiny moment, you just learned pronunciation better than any textbook could teach you. Next time you won't forget. That one little mistake gave you a permanent improvement. Now imagine if you stayed silent, afraid of saying it wrong. You would have ordered in another language, avoided the embarrassment, but also avoided the lesson. Which choice helps you grow more? Always the mistake. Another powerful thing about mistakes is that they make you brave. The more you face them, the less power they have over you. At first you may feel nervous, your face may flush, your heart may race when you realize you've said something wrong. But after enough experiences, you stop caring so much. You realize that nobody is perfect. And people don't remember your mistakes as much as you think they do. What they remember is your courage, your effort, your willingness to communicate. In fact, many native English speakers respect learners who try, even if their English isn't perfect. They know how hard it is to speak a second language, and often they don't judge you at all. Instead, they admire you. But even if someone laughs, let them, because their laughter doesn't define your journey. Your growth is bigger than their opinion. Remember, the world only claps for those who dare, not for those who stay silent. Another truth is that mistakes make you remember better than perfection ever could. When you get something wrong once, it leaves a mark in your memory. That mark helps you recall the correct way in the future. If you always waited until you were perfect, you'd never give yourself the chance to create those learning marks. So don't just accept mistakes, welcome them. They are signs that you're moving forward, signs that you are stepping outside your comfort zone, signs that you are alive in your learning journey. And let me tell you, fluency is built outside the comfort zone. Inside the comfort zone, there are no risks, no failures, no mistakes, but also no growth. It's only when you stretch yourself, when you risk being wrong, that you start to discover how much you can actually do. So the next time you feel fear rising inside you, remind yourself, this mistake is not the end. It's the beginning of learning. You might even make the same mistake more than once, and that's okay too. Repetition is part of mastery. Think of athletes. They miss shots, they lose matches, but they don't quit. They keep practicing, learning from each miss until they succeed. Your mistakes in English are the same. Each one is practice, each one is progress, each one is shaping you into a better speaker. So speak bravely, even if your words come out wrong. Ask questions, even if they sound broken. Express yourself, even if your grammar is not perfect. Because what matters most is not flawless English, it's communication. The world doesn't need your perfection, it needs your voice. And the only way your voice becomes strong is by using it, mistakes and all. The fifth smart way to improve your English speaking skill is to train yourself to think in English instead of translating from your native language. This, my friend, is one of the biggest secrets to fluency, because the truth is, most learners don't struggle because they lack knowledge. They struggle because their mind gets stuck in the process of translation. They hear something in English, translate it into their own language, think of a reply in their language, and then try to translate it back into English. By the time they are ready to speak, the moment is gone. They freeze, they hesitate, and they feel embarrassed. But the real problem is not their intelligence, it's the habit of translating. Think of your brain like a road. Right now, for many learners, their thoughts take a long, complicated route. First, the thought appears in their native language. Then it travels to a translation road where it tries to find English words. Then it takes another turn to grammar check. Finally, it reaches the mouth. By then, it's too late, and what comes out is either broken or delayed. That's why conversations feel stressful, slow, and frustrating. But imagine if your brain could take the direct road. The thought appears in English, travels straight to your mouth, and flows out smoothly. That's fluency. That's the power of thinking in English. Now the question is, how do you train your mind to think in English? The answer is simpler than you think. You start small. Don't try to translate big, complicated thoughts in the beginning. Start with simple daily ideas. For example, instead of thinking, I am feeling hungry in your native language first, train yourself to think directly, I'm hungry. Instead of thinking, it's very hot today in your own language, train yourself to think, it's hot today. At first, it will feel strange. Your brain will try to pull you back into translation, but the more you practice, the stronger your English thinking muscles become. One powerful exercise is to narrate your day in English inside your head. For example, when you wake up, think, I need to brush my teeth. When you leave for school or work, think, I'm going to catch the bus. When you're eating, think, this food tastes good. These are small, simple sentences, but they slowly rewire your brain. You are teaching your mind to choose English as its first option, and the more you do this, the more automatic it becomes. Another technique is to replace your inner voice with English. We all have that voice in our head that talks to us, the one that says, I hope I don't forget my keys, or I need to finish this work today. Usually it speaks in our native language, but you can train that inner voice to speak in English. At first it may be broken, and you may not find the right words. That's fine. Even broken English in your thoughts is better than perfect sentences in translation, because broken English thoughts eventually lead to fluent English speech. A great way to practice is by asking yourself questions in English. For example, what am I going to do today? How was my morning? What do I want to eat? And then answer yourself in English too. This may feel funny at first, but it's incredibly effective. You're basically having a conversation with yourself inside your own mind, and that practice trains your brain to respond in English automatically. Thinking in English also helps you improve speed. When you stop translating, your sentences come out faster, smoother, and more natural. You don't pause as much, you don't hesitate, and you don't get stuck searching for words. Your responses sound confident because they flow naturally from your thoughts. And confidence doesn't just come from speaking well, it comes from speaking without fear of being too slow or awkward. Now, some people worry, but what if I don't know enough words to think in English? That's a valid concern. But here's the good news. You don't need thousands of words to start. Use the words you already know. If you don't know a difficult word, describe it with simple words. For example, if you don't know the word refrigerator, just think the place where I keep food cold. If you don't know umbrella, think the thing I use when it rains. This way, you're still training your brain to stay in English, even with limited vocabulary. Over time, you'll naturally add new words, but until then, your brain learns the skill of staying inside English without jumping out for translation. And here's something interesting. When you think in English, your pronunciation and grammar also improve. Why? Because when you create sentences in English directly, they are usually shorter, simpler, and more natural. Translation often makes sentences complicated or unnatural, but thinking directly in English keeps your language clear and straightforward, which is exactly what good communication is. Another benefit of thinking in English is confidence in real conversations. Have you ever noticed how sometimes you know the answer in class or at work, but by the time you translate it in your head, the chance to speak is gone? That hesitation destroys confidence. But if you're already thinking in English, you don't need that delay. You can speak immediately. And when you speak immediately, you sound more natural, and people take you more seriously. So, train your brain daily. Start with simple sentences. Narrate your day. Use your inner voice in English. Describe things around you, and slowly increase the complexity. Don't wait until you know everything. Start with what you know now, because every thought you create in English brings you one step closer to speaking fluently, without hesitation, without translation, without fear. The sixth and final smart way to improve your English speaking skill is to set clear goals and stay consistent. Many learners make the mistake of saying, I want to speak English fluently, but they don't define what fluency means for them, and they don't create a path to reach it. As a result, they keep practicing randomly, sometimes motivated, sometimes not, and after months they feel stuck at the same level. But here's the truth. Fluency is not built in a single day, nor does it appear out of nowhere. Fluency is the result of daily actions, guided by clear goals, repeated consistently over time. Without goals, your journey is like sailing without a compass. You may be moving, but you don't know where you're going. So what kind of goals should you set? Start with small, achievable ones. Don't set the goal of sounding like a native speaker in 3 months. That will only discourage you. Instead, set goals that are realistic and measurable. For example, I will introduce myself in English confidently within 1 week. Or, I will learn and use 5 new words every day in my sentences. Or, I will practice speaking for 5 minutes daily without stopping. These are simple, specific, and achievable. When you reach them, you feel a sense of accomplishment, and that feeling motivates you to move to the next step. Progress becomes addictive, and slowly those small goals add up to big results. Consistency is the magic ingredient. You see, even if you practice for just 10 minutes a day, but you do it every single day, you will achieve more than someone who studies for 2 hours once a week and then forgets. Consistency is what transforms practice into habit, and habits into results. Imagine if you practiced one useful phrase every day. In a year, you would have over 350 new phrases ready to use in conversation. Imagine if you recorded yourself speaking for just 2 minutes daily. By the end of the year, you would have more than 12 hours of speaking practice, and you would clearly see how far you've come. Consistency compounds, and that is where the magic of fluency lies. But here's the challenge. Staying consistent is not easy. Life gets busy. Some days you're tired, some days you don't feel motivated, some days you may feel like giving up. And this is where your goals come back to save you. When your goals are clear, they remind you why you started. On days when you don't feel like practicing, you don't need motivation. You just need discipline. Discipline means doing it anyway, even if it's just for 5 minutes. And here's the best part. Once you start, even on your lazy days, you often end up doing more than you expected. That's the power of habit, fueled by consistency. Another important part of setting goals is to track your progress. Too often, learners forget how far they've come. They compare themselves to people who are already fluent and feel discouraged. But if you record yourself now and listen again 3 months later, you will hear the improvement. If you write down the words you've learned weekly, you will see your vocabulary growing. If you keep a small journal in English, you will notice your sentences becoming smoother over time. Progress is not always visible day by day, but when you track it, you realize that every small step you take is building something greater. And remember, goals should not just be about learning, They should also be about using what you learn. For example, set a goal like, this week I will order food in English at least once, or I will start one conversation in English with a friend. These goals push you out of your comfort zone and bring your practice into real life. And when you succeed, even in small ways, your confidence skyrockets. That confidence becomes fuel for your next step. Many learners ask, how long will it take to become fluent? The answer is, it depends on your consistency. If you practice daily with clear goals, you can make visible progress in months. But if you practice irregularly, fluency may take years. The speed is in your hands. Every day you practice, you are one step closer. Every day you skip, you are one step behind. So the choice is always yours. Move forward with discipline, or stay in the same place with excuses. And here's something powerful to remember. Consistency beats talent. You may not be the fastest learner, you may not have the best memory, you may not even feel confident now, but if you show up every day, practice with intention, and keep going when others quit, you will win. Talent gives someone a head start, but consistency wins the race. The world is full of people who were not the best, but they became successful because they never stopped. Your English journey works the same way. Don't stop, don't skip, and don't give up. So set your goals today. Write them down, make them clear, and break them into small steps. Then commit to showing up every single day. Even if it's just 5 minutes, do it. Because when you add those minutes together, when you add those days together, you will look back and realize you've created something incredible. Fluency won't just be a dream anymore. It will be your reality.